So welcome everybody. My name is Cesar Jung Harada. I'm the director of Mekabe and teaching at the University of Hong Kong, Design and Architecture. And this is the session called Industry 4.0, Social Impact, Opportunities and Challenge in ASEAN. I'll introduce first the topic before I introduce our valuable speakers and panelists. So I think the theme here is that ASEAN in particular is growing very, very fast. Everybody's talking about the Asian century, but actually when things or anything grows that fast, there's always a lot of what I call growing pains. And so the idea is that a lot of people will benefit from this growth, but also some people may be left on the margins of this growth. So today we're going to be talking to people who are very conscious of how to build an inclusive society. And so those people have done amazing things in trying to see how we could make that growth and this development to be sustainable and also inclusive. The first guest I'd like to introduce is prosthetist Richard Yim, who is from Cambodia. He's the co-founder of Dimine Robotics. He also has a manufacturing company where he builds laser cutter and CNCs, enable manufacturing to start to take off in Cambodia and the region. And I know he's also very passionate about education. We have the second guest is Cherry Atilano from the Philippines. She is the founding farmer and CEO and president of Agria International. Recently, she received the UN Woman Award for the amazing work she has done on COVID-19 relief, providing food for the people who really were struggling because they cannot go out and cannot work. Of course, she's going to be talking about that herself. And then our third guest is Marie Buntalatas from Laos. I'm sorry if I don't pronounce the name correctly. All from different ASEAN countries. I'm not very familiar with all the pronunciations, so please correct me when you and say your name the way it should be pronounced afterwards. She's an entrepreneur in Global Shapers from Davos 50. She participated in the World Economic Forum as a Wanyong leader, and she's also a kickboxer, an avid kickboxer, and she runs a gym that is changing the cultural perception of that sport and changing the mindset of a lot of people in Laos. So without further ado, each of the speakers is going to be introducing what they do for 5 to 10 minutes. So they'll be totalizing maximum 30 minutes. Then we'll have a 15 minutes panel. And after this 15 minutes panel, then anybody who is in the audience will be welcome to ask their own questions. And so there'll be like an open Q&A. So altogether, we have about 45 minutes. We can spill a little bit, but that's roughly the plan. So, so we'd love to maybe ask first Richard to come online. So Richard, I'm going to give you the control and would love to hear about all the amazing things that you have been doing. So I'm transferring the control to you.
Hello.
Welcome, Richard.
Yeah. So thank you, Cesar, for the introduction. My name is Richard Yim, and I'm the co-founder and CEO of Demai Robotics. We are building a technology solution to solve landmine problems and other explosives. So essentially, I founded a company about 4 years ago. And my original background is that I was born in Cambodia, and when I was growing up, I can see a lot of the problem with landmines, and so that's what inspired me to continue my education in engineering when I moved to Canada, and finally got a chance to come back and apply those knowledge and build a robotic solution to solve their problems. Now, currently, we are at a stage where we're using the machine with the Norwegian's government to do landmine clearance in northeastern Cambodia. And so, for us specifically, we're looking at the phase of excavation, where it is the most dangerous for the miners to dig out explosive. Our robotic solution guarantees safety as it can be controlled up to 500 meters away, and about 10x efficiency compared to the current system. We do hold multiple international patents on the technology, and like Caesar alluded to a little bit, I'm also just co-found another company called Quantum Engineering Manufacturing, where the focus here is on high-tech manufacturing in Cambodia. We want to be able to produce high quality, high standard international products that is never seen before in Cambodia, and we want to become one of the major suppliers from ASEAN. So those are the two main projects I'm working on. I also I, I also am an active angel investor here in the Cambodian technology startup scene. Um, Involved in a lot of the investment recently in the past couple of years. Also, I've done a little bit of teaching myself. I've taught different seminar and training at the University of Waterloo back in Canada, and since I moved back to Cambodia, I've been teaching entrepreneurship and communication at various universities here. So that's a little bit about my background. I'm really looking forward to meet the rest of the panelists and hearing the questions from everyone. And it's an honor to be a part of this panel, and hopefully we have a great discussion. So thank you very much, guys. So that's me.
You're very humble, so I'll prompt you with some questions. So maybe you can tell a bit more about what you do. So can you tell us about the kind of impact you've been having since you've come back from Canada?
Yeah, so specifically with each of these companies and the investment, I like to think that I do make quite an impact. With my robotics, we are we're digging out multiple explosives per hour as we talk currently. There are machines that seriously helping a lot of the efficiency within the mining sector. In the quantum manufacturing sector, we also produce a lot of the equipment that we are selling in Cambodia and hopefully to start exporting relatively soon. We in talk with various government agency where we can provide them a lot of trainings. The next major training that we are doing is on technologies to the United Nations peacekeeping force here in Cambodia, as well with the investment that we do make. Currently, we are in total employ close to 200 people in total of all the investment, all the companies that we are doing. So that is some of the impact that we're making directly. Some of our indirect impact is that we are able to clear many hectares of land that is currently being used by thousands of civilians and population that living in the countryside. Many of those people were living in danger as they were building house on top of a minefield just because they weren't able to have a location where they can live safely. So we were able to clear those regions for them to build houses and commute without the fear of landmine anymore. So those are some of the things, some of the impact that we were able to make. As well, very fortunate and very honored to be awarded with various programs. I'm also part of the Global Shaper here in Cambodia, so nice to see another fellow Shapers. Also, was very happy to be awarded the um, Fortune 30 under 30 last year. So thank you very much. Yeah, hopefully I can add some more during the discussion.
Sounds good. Thanks a lot. So now we're gonna pass the microphone to our second speaker. So Cherry, if you oh sorry, Richard, I need you to help me to actually pass it to Cherry.
Okay.
So if you go in the tab people and then
Yep.
trainers,
Okay.
yeah, and I need Cherry to do the same afterwards.
Yeah.
So Cherry, if you can catch the microphone
Yeah.
and take control. Thanks a lot.
Hi.
Hello.
Hear me okay? Um,
Yes, we can hear you well and we can see you well.
I'm Cherry, sending my love from the Philippines to everyone. I will share you my screen first so that it's just a little bit of video that you can watch from my screen. Um, yes. So thank you for watching that little video done by the World Economic Forum. It's so funny because Richard and Mary are actually in the Global Shapers. I was in the Global Shapers too, but I'm now part of the alumni community and the Young Global Leader this year. I've been working with the agriculture sector for 22 years. We started teaching farmers at the age of 12. It's been a long journey to more than 2 decades of journey with the smallholder farmers in the country. And I'm the CEO and founder of Agria. It's actually a company that is helping around 23,000 farmers in the Philippines now. So in the video, if you've seen the video, it was done with the World Economic Forum on May, in the middle of the lockdown in the Philippines, where a lot of farmers don't have access to market or they lost their markets because of the lockdown, and it's harvest season, so a lot of them are actually losing their income, and at the same time, a lot of food waste because the crops are actually just rotting on farmers' fields. So just to give you a context, Philippines is having 20 to 21 typhoons every year. Just speaking right here, an hour ago, I was just shipping a lot of seeds to several farming communities, around 3,300 farmers this week, to have access to farm inputs to plant again because they were damaged by 3 typhoons in a row. But aside from that, what we do in the company in terms of impact, in Agria, we actually have an Agria farm school because we believe that if we change the game on sustainable agricultural practices in farming, as well as make the farmers bankable to have access to financial support and have access to market, is to educate them. Mindset change is necessary in our work. So we have 2 farm schools running in Luzon area. Philippines is divided into 3 major islands: Luzon, Visayas, Mindanao. So we have farm school now in Luzon and also in Mindanao, which is our food baskets. Um, the farm school teaches the farmers sustainable agriculture practices. We teach also them on financial literacy in partnership with some banks and microfinance institutions, so that they can have, unlock investments on farming communities. And at the same time, we teach them how to have access to market. So we do the Links to Farm program with the government as well as private institutions. But on the business side, Agria actually works with climate resilient approach on production. So we work mostly on the poorest farmers in the Philippines. The rice farmers and the coconut farmers, because the rice farmers are only earning like $2,000 in a year, and the coconut farmers are only earning like $2,300 in a year. So what we do for rice farmers, we increase their harvest by actually doing crop rotation in legumes crops. So, for example, to restore the soil health of their soil. So, this year we are working with more than 2,000 rice farmers in the rice granary of the Philippines to actually like cycle their cropping, rice and then legumes or mung bean, which is high in demand in the market. And we also work with them on having access to processors, where most of their products are actually going to companies that are developing nutritious products for the consumers. On the coconut farmers, Philippines, since we have 20 to 21 typhoons in a year, every typhoon, farmers are losing a lot of their coconuts. And we do climate resilient approach in cropping by planting superfoods. So we plant a lot of ginger and turmeric to utilize the land under coconut, because if a farmer has a hectare of land, he or she will only have 100 coconut trees in that hectare. So what we do is to utilize the land under the coconut by planting superfoods, and also teach the farmers to plant vegetables around the coconut farm for their home consumption and also for them to sell. At the same time, give them organic pigs and chicken for poultry and livestock production. So, in a way, we actually diversify their sources of income. They're not only dependent from coconut products, but they're also having superfoods, vegetables, livestock, and poultry, which actually trajectorized their income. Some of our farmers were only earning $60 every 40 days before because they're dependent on dried coconut meat. For our work with them, we increased their income from $60 to $120 in a month. And some farms, they actually earn $200 in a month, which is a big leap from $60 every 45 days to now in a month income. And every month they have sustainable income, and every typhoon they can survive, so they become resilient farmers. um, with this pandemic, we launched two initiatives that was actually featured in the World Economic Forum video. It's the Move Food initiative, which early next year we're launching our Move Food grocery, where we're actually, right now catering to around 80,000 families in Metro Manila. They order their weekly need of vegetables from us. At the same time, we also have the Agria Rescue Kitchen because in ASEAN, not only in the Philippines, food waste is massive. We have food waste on farm, and then we have food waste during logistics, and then we have food waste even in restaurants. So the Agria Rescue Kitchens work a lot with women in the supply chain and women who lost their jobs during this pandemic to actually utilize post-harvest, losses and overproduction of farmers into products like pickles, jams, and a lot of healthy products that are now most sought in the market. The Agria Rescue Kitchen just won as one of the sustainable approach to social gastronomy movement in the Food Solidarity Fund in 2020 because of that approach. And so, in a way, we're actually not only impacting the lives of the farmers, but also consumers because our products are usually 30 to 40% cheaper than the supermarket. So we're addressing how our consumers have access to nutritious, affordable, and accessible food for everyone. Yeah, thank you so much. I'm happy to have questions later on in our discussion.
Thank you so much, Cherry. It's pretty amazing what you're doing. Now, if you're willing to pass the microphone to Mary.
Oh,
Mary,
wait, I transferred it to you.
oh, no problem. I'll take it and I'll pass it to Mary.
Sorry, thank you.
No worries, no worries. I'll pass to Mary now. So, Mary, I know that you have your camera, but if you want, if you want me to share your screen, the presentation, then I can share the
Um,
presentation for you.
yes, that would be great if you can share the presentation because I think I need some visualize.
No problem, no problem. So then you might need to pass me back the control. So I will mute myself. You can speak, but it will be my
uh,
face on the screen, not your beautiful face.
okay,
I'm sorry about
no
that.
problem, no
Could you pass
problem.
me
So
back the control?
okay, hold on.
So if you go in the people and the trainers tab, and then if you go on Caesar, then I'll take back
Okay,
the control and I'll share my screen.
all right.
Okay. Oh, you passed it to Ravindra.
Oh, sorry.
No worries. So Ravindra, are you in the
Okay,
session?
let
Okay, I got it. Okay, so I got the control and I'll share my screen right now. Okay, here you go. Do you see my screen? Do you see my screen?
yes,
Okay,
yes,
great.
I can see your screen now.
So Mary, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. It's truly an honor and pleasure to be here, especially with Cherry and Richard, who've done just an amazing job. It's very inspiring to hear that. So I would like to start off my presentation by asking you, what comes to your mind when you think of a boxer?
Be pain.
Can I go to next slide? Yeah, being born and raised here in La Pidera, I see that boxing is perceived as being violent and a poor man's sport.
Mhm.
I want to change that. that perception and reimagine the boxing industry in Laos. So I decided to open my kickboxing gym back in 2018 when I first fall in love with this sport. I saw the benefit myself. I'm being happier, I was healthier and much more confident. And I see that I was able to provide a stable salary for the trainer and a place for them to train for the fight. However, along this journey, there's a lot of challenges. In Laos, unlike other countries like in Thailand or in the Western country, we have no system or the platform that can give a real support to this industry. The earning is so low and inconsistent, and sometimes it's very unfair. So the boxer had to rely on the neighboring country to organize the fight so that they can attend and earn more money. And this issue had been intensified by the COVID-19 pandemic, the lockdown, which make it even more difficult for some to continue to pursue their dream career. And also in Laos, we don't have like a clear professional development or milestone for them to follow, and that's why they don't want to stay in this industry because like the earning is not very clear and they have to make a living every day. Sadly, one this boxer become the top athlete for Laos, they often leave the country. Why? Because they don't see the opportunity to grow here. And in Thailand or in another ASEAN country, provide them a better earning. So by recognizing these challenges, we want to overcome this and be a tiny part to support the kickboxing or boxing industry in Laos. We provide a facility to the fighter to train and also a platform for them to showcase their talent to the local community and also being able to participate in the regional fight match. In our club is also a place for the athlete to earn a living by teaching or transferring the knowledge to the people in our community. On the mental health side or the well-being, we also want to empower more women and girls to participate in this sport, either for the workout purpose or take it as a serious professional path. So they can use this as a way to build confidence, or when they have a bad day, they can use this as a coping strategy to fight stress or anxiety for their busy life. With that, we hope that we can see a healthier, happier society here in the capital of Laos. And also, last but not least, we would like to change the perception and reimagine this industry from being a poor man's sport to the one that the boxer can take pride in representing the country and earn a decent living. And also change that perception from being a violent sport to that the one that requires a real commitment, discipline, hard work, and respect. So in the club, we want young people with a dream to see that our club is a place of endless possibility as long as they have what it takes. Perhaps I can give you a little bit of the story about two athletes from our gym. There's a girl from the village. She came to Vientiane, leave her village to become a maid, and she was not very confident. She would lack of the vision and the goal. But I saw that she was really committed to improve herself. And after that, I asked her if she would like to join us to um to work with me at the gym, and she accepted that. Then over 6 months, she developed herself to become a gym manager, and now I'm proud to represent her as the first female boxer and fighter and the coach from our club. And also another interesting story is that we have young athlete who join us since the early day, since we start. Um, he was able to buy himself a land and build a house, and at the same time, he was able to support himself, the education. Now he is finishing the electrical engineer degree next year in 2021 by his hard-earned money from the boxing. So yeah, it just it's just like a small step and something out of the passion. I never imagined that those action or those impact could happen today. Yes, that's a humble story from my side. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much, Mary. That's quite amazing. Maybe just one quick question as well. I'd like to ask a little bit more. So yourself, like, how did you overcome that negative image of fighting? Like, how yourself overcome that image?
I think I was very focused on what I'm doing, and the reason that I opened the gym, I first opened for myself because I went to the boxing gym and then I didn't see any place that I feel safe, and I didn't feel that women are welcome. So I want to change that perception. And right now, over 80% of client and student are female, and they love it. And if you ask me like how I overcome that negative perception, just be the example. Have a good team and the team that have the vision to change and make a positive uh, shift in the boxing industry. Yes,
That's amazing.
all the time we try to put out a positive image, and then I celebrate the boxer. Like most of the time, we have national, and the boxer at my gym, he is also the regional champion, represent Laos to SEA Game, get so many medal, but he was not being celebrated. So what we do is that we celebrate them, we honor them for their hard work and dedication.
Great, thank you so much. So now I'd like to ask maybe an open question to all of you, to the three of you. So the first question I'd like to ask is, you are working in such different lines of business, whether it's in food, providing food, or helping people not to explode on minds, or how to like become fighters and change their own self-perception. Can I ask you, listening to each other, what do you learn from each other? Because I know that you are part of this big community of global shapers. um, how do you what do you learn from each other? So just listening to each other today, like, what are the things that you're taking away from each other's presentation? So this is an open question to all of you. Oh, control. I think you're in control right now, Ravindra.
Yes, I give you back the control.
You want to move your camera, hide perhaps, so we could see you as well. Okay, so my first question was, when you are part of this same network, how do you actually learn from each other? Or maybe more specifically, what do you learn from each other? So for example, like Richard, what would you learn from Cherry or Mary?
Um, Even though I've been working for quite a while, um, there's still so much to learn from Cherry and Mary. I think from me, when hearing about their story, it's very inspiring to see that their work that they're doing is changing people's perception, and I think that was very important. And that was one of the big challenges that we faced when we were trying to introduce technology into a old industry that doesn't like technology. So when Mary was talking about changing the perception of boxing from a violent sport and improvements, well, I totally understand what it meant because growing up in Cambodia, seeing how people view boxing in the same way, so it was very captivating to hear the presentation. Also, with Cherry, the work that help feed people, um, thousands and thousands of family is such an awesome and amazing work, and especially food waste has been a big problem all around the world. So to see a solution that is working to deal with food waste, it was great to see.
Thank you so much. As well, I think maybe this is a question from a perception of maybe like founders, like people who are interested in supporting all of you guys' amazing work. There is a book that came out a couple of years ago. It's called Drawdown, and it's a book that compiles all the biggest solution that we can use to combat climate change. And so I can see that you're working, you're part of the same network, these global shapers. Is there such a thing as, trying to understand the order of priority? Like, like, of course, it's very important to feed people, of course, it's very important to change the perception of boxing and such a sport and let women access to it. Do you guys sometimes get together and strategically are exposed to founders and you understand the sort of impact that you can create? Are there places where you can exchange and broadcast this kind of information? So this is maybe for Maria, for Cherry.
Hi.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I think I'll share. Of course, I think you just need to surround yourself with people who also share the same values, and aside from values, maybe the weight of the responsibility. Because I've been doing business since I was 20 years old. It's been 14 years of doing business. It's not easy because the responsibility of a founder or you're an employer, for example, is different from an employee, right? I actually have this little discussion with a lot of founders in the Philippines. Every month I host dinner at home. Like actually tonight I'm hosting dinner. So most of these people are founders of their own companies, like founders of a mental health digital company, founder of an ecological tourism company. So every month they became my best friends for the last 3 years. It's because it's nice to share insights and at the same time challenges, and at the same time to have comfort and affirmation that you're not doing this alone. There are other people who's also shouldering the same weight of responsibility that you have.
Mm.
Like my parents one time was telling me that, Sherry, because you dedicated 22 years of your life since you're 12 years old in the agriculture sector, despite opportunities you receive, abroad and private corporations getting you to with huge amount of money to work with them. Um, you said no, and we and this saw me struggling bootstrapping my business, right? And now I have 70 employees and working with 23,000 farmers, and the team is growing and growing in Saturday. But every day the weight of responsibility is not shrinking, it's also growing because being an employer of a founder is such a different kind of thing. You wake up every day, it's because these people whom you employed are dependent on you, and most people I employed in my company are actually breadwinner of their families.
Mhm.
So if I cannot give them salary, if I cannot sustain the company, who will sustain them also? Because they also rely their dreams, the responsibilities on your shoulder. So it's a compounded responsibility that you need to take on as a founder. But I think what sustained me in the company when I started all my companies. So currently I have four companies. All that I started, it all started with eco versus ego. I always tell my teams that when you want to join with me, ego is something that we need to fight. So every time my employees, for example, or my team, if they couldn't say no to me, I don't give them much responsibility. I want people to say no to me. I don't want to create followers or employees. I want to create leaders within my company, and that's how it works. And second one, I always share this to my team that I don't like the three things like the silo, surprises, and drama. Especially we're all millennials, right? Global shapers, we're all millennials, right? And most of our employees are also millennials. Of course, I have companies that my employees are very old, like older, like 40 plus to 50 plus years old. Um, the silo, working in a silo, and the surprises and the drama, these are the things that I always share with other founders because there's just so much drama sometimes happening in enterprises, especially if it's like a social enterprise that what we do. Mary is also doing it. There's just that thing of dramas in the workplace, or dramas with clients, or dramas with suppliers. So for me, I always work on transparency. So we're always transparent with whoever we work with, and that transparency actually survived us. Another insight I think is the sense of responsibility also for founders is good if you shared and talk it with other founders,
Mhm.
because in a way you create this kind of safe space of vulnerability, because it's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay not to be okay, right? So for me, for founders, it's always like, silo yourself and discuss your problem all by to yourself, right? You need to create this kind of influence and this kind of group of people who can work with you, who would understand you, who would understand the weight on your shoulder, the weight of your responsibility, so that in a sense, it's becoming lighter and lighter and it's worth moving forward.
It's super inspiring, and you're incredibly mature. You've been working in this industry for 14 years, but still like you have 100 years of experience of learning. So I really picked up on what you're saying about like shouldering and making sure that even though you're employing more and more people, that you have dinner with other people, and then you get them to hold that weight on their own shoulders as well. But I have a question maybe for it's open to all of you, but how do you get people to actually take that weight? Because like you said, they work in different industry. how how do you transfer the weight to them, and how do you make sure that they actually care enough that they commit to it as well? Like when do you see that they make the switch? How can you get other people to care enough that they will take some shoulders off
Uh-huh.
or weight off your shoulder and actually take it as well for themselves?
Uh-huh. Um, yeah, perhaps I can share that
Yeah.
from my experience. So what we try to do here at the gym is that I give them a responsibility, and also not only the responsibility and the ownership. I let them to be a part of the decision making, decide the program, and how they who they would like to recruit and who they think that they want to work with, something like that, and allow them to fail sometime, to make mistake, and don't judge them. Yeah, and that way the creativity, the trust is growing, and then the team become like a very strong and bonding. I would have to say that like our our gym right now is almost only one gym that survived during the pandemic, because we have such a strong team and the service is growing like more than we could imagine. Yes, thank
Thanks
you.
very much. That's a great response. Maybe that's the question I like point. Oh, sorry, go. Yeah, please go ahead.
Can I add to Mary? Mary, we need to do kickboxing. I also been doing kickboxing for more than a year now.
Is that right?
It's like just a thing to release stress. Yeah,
Yeah,
I've been doing,
it's really good. It's really stress every day.
yeah, instead of yeah, it's really my stress relief. I do kickboxing 3 times a week. I have a trainer coming at home. Um, but I really I want to segue on what Mary like giving people responsibility. So in my company, but I before I had this, when you're a founder or if you're a young owner of a company or even if you're old, it doesn't come in ages. Um, giving micromanagement is such a thing. I don't know if you love Sojak Zine, but I'm such a Virgo. I'm a control freak. I know my negativities. I'm such a control freak. I'm not a micromanage. I'm a micromanager, and I was afraid to delegate people because it comes with trust, especially is when the companies are handling big projects, for example. So there was one time, I think Agria was only 3 years old at the time, and we had this big project with the Embassy of Brunei and it was under President Obama and the Sultan of Brunei. It was like a project that's like around $200,000 that we need to implement. And of course, I was so stressed, and we need to do it in Brunei, among all places in Southeast Asia, and gathering all the ASEAN youth leaders to go to Brunei and entrepreneurs. And of course, Brunei is not my comfort zone. I need to learn their legal stuff. I need to learn how society works. I need to work with local suppliers. So on the course of thing, my team actually told me, Cherry, can you please take a break? Because, this is August. We're going to Brunei. We're not including you. You just sign our travel and give us money and approval to book our plane tickets. But we will go to Brunei. It's August to September. It's your birthday month in September. Just go out, chill, accept speaking engagements abroad, and have a vacation for your birthday abroad. And every time you reply to our group chat, we do work chat in our work and Trello and Slack. Every time you reply to our group chat, it's a 1 day additional to your 1 month off from the office. So I was like struggling because I said, do I really have a company when I go back that Agria exists after a month? And you know what I did? I give them the responsibility. Okay, you run the company. They're like they're our managers in the company, and then I go off. So I went to the U.S. Attended speaking engagements. And you know what happened after that? Every time the message and they're like trying to solve problem, I was like problematic. Oh my goodness, I want to try to be engaged in their conversation, but it's an additional day in my off, and I don't want because I need to go back to the Philippines in a month and be in the office in a month. So what happened to that exercise though? It's my team, taking the responsibility to give me a break and to really like give them also trust that they can run the company. And then what they said to me is, Cherry, we'll send you off to the airport, but we promise you in a month you still have Agraya, you still have the company. And it's like such a baby. I trust her so much. So it was so hard to let go and throw the baby in a bath that is only 3 years old. And it's like big projects with President Obama and Sultan of Brunei. It's like I was really in that, but I was so stressed. So I really just give my trust to my team. Okay, just run it, and you know what? It ran perfectly. My lesson for that is a lot of founders were so hard to ourselves,
Mhm.
and it's okay to be hard to ourselves, but it's also so nice to, I think, one step forward, two steps backward, and four steps sideways. Dance around on what else flexibility we can do, what kind of trust we can give to our team, and
Mhm.
what kind of ownership and responsibility do you need to understand and to also share the weight of your responsibility.
Thanks a lot. That's a yes. We have to take care of ourselves and our others. Maybe I'd love to like take a kind of piggyback on that and kind of turn that question to Richard, because you work in an industry that's so different. Of course, the industry of feeding people, if you don't it right, people go hungry. So that's terrible. In the industry of fighting, if you don't do it right, then people get injured as well. So it's or they lose their match, which is very bad. But Richard, in your industry, if you don't guide the people, they mess up with the mind and they blow themselves up. That's a pretty big deal. So how do you give them ownership? Because you have to give them very protocol. You have to give them very very strict instruction. So how do you give them to actually be engaged in a job that is dangerous and in which they may have not so much ownership on the process?
Yeah, you're right, Caesar. For us, our job is very, very different from many industry because lives are being put on the line with every time we're putting our machine out there. We need to make sure our machine works fine, so then it's not going to risk anybody going in to fix the machine if it would break down in the minefield. And if we decide to dig out an explosive, we want to make sure we do get them out. So how do we get our employees to make sure that they follow the instruction and to take care of the projects? Well, for us, we have a really strong work culture where we would sit down everyone together every week and just discuss the goal and the ambition and the vision for the company. And we have a really rigorous hiring process for the My Robotics where all of our hire is from organic growth, which means we always are hiring, and even when we don't have the specific task for the employees to do, but we hire on passion and we hire on heart. And I think that is allowing us to grow as fast as we did and also allow us to make sure that the safety standard is as high as possible. All of our employees care about the project as much as I do. And when we're talking about caring about human life, that is a strong incentive to be very careful in the work. And so all of them are amazing and they take ownership of their work. I have a great CTO that overlooking the whole technology process. And so for us, we are walking on the same road and our motivation, our passion is on the same path. A lot of people, including myself, when we look at the My Robotics, there is it is more than a company. It is a way for us to save lives and a way for us to help the world to become a better place. So when you have like-minded individuals on the same project, it's kind of quite easy for them to make sure that they take serious of their job because any mistake will cost a person life.
Thanks a lot. That's good to hear. And so what I wonder is sometimes because, for example, the work that you do is so fundamentally important, like feeding people, removing the mines, you know, people changing their own perception, and they all have tremendous impact. However, I think a lot of the times there's a perception that those are charity activities. So, do you think that your activity is more scalable if it's a charity base, or do you think it's more scalable if it's more like a capitalist enterprise, or is it a mixed model, or what do you think is more scalable in your region?
I think I'll answer first because the video was transferred to me.
It's on you.
For me, it's a hybrid because we're working in a sector that is always having problems in terms of human rights issues. For example, in the agriculture sector, I
Hmm.
always share this, right? Why the farmers and the fishers are poor, why it's a crime against humanity that the producers of the food chain are the hungriest and the poorest, the farmers and the fishers. And it's not only in my country, it's happening in ASEAN. As we talk about ASEAN right now, if you go to farming places, they're really poor, right? Only few farmers are rich if they are traders. So there's so much problem in terms of trading system. There's so much exploitation happening in that sector. And if you just want to be capitalistic, I never saw a capitalistic approach really change a lot of farmers' lives. A lot of people in the agriculture sector that I saw very effective because they're kind of work on a hybrid kind of model wherein you help a lot of farmers, but at the same time you manage how much income you really need to have. So for example, in my company, Cesar, we always say this, that we are not a company that is so big, but we are a company that is manageable enough but is of high quality in terms of performance. In what
Hmm.
kind of performance?
Hmm.
We're actually changing the way on how agribusiness is always transactional. You go, you transact to farmers, you bid for their produce, sell it to the consumers. It's very transactional, and the transaction can go to 12 chains. And the 12 chains added another layer of money, and the consumers is actually shouldering the cost of the food. So we're working on both producers and the consumers. And so what we do in our company is for us to make it having sense is to really make it transformational. But to be transformational, of course, in social entrepreneurship, we always have this people, planet, progress, right? We don't even call it profit. We need to call it progress because as you progress as a company and financially feasible and viable, you can create actually a lot of good and work on the farming sector. So what we did in the company in the transformational approach, that's actually the reason why we set up the Agria Foundation. So I have an Agria Foundation that's not a nonprofit. We have farm schools because the farm school is a way that I always believe that education will always trajectorize the things that you want to do, especially if it involves human beings, people. So we always believe in cultivation of human beings, and that's in a way being done in the farm school wherein farmers will know what's their rights, what are their dreams in life, how can they send their children to school, how can they can have healthy food on their table, how can they have roof on their head, and how they can survive on climate change. So in a way, we're still a sustainable business. We're growing. Despite this pandemic, I think it's just a silver lining that feeding people is the most sustainable business and is the most essential business. I never saw a person during the lockdown run to the supermarket or department store buying new clothes, buying new shoes, or buying a car. They all went to the supermarket or the market to buy food to hoard because they don't know when lockdown lasts. So for me, it's really balancing. It's really about the entrepreneur. How much do we really need to earn to live? I remember, this is quite short. I remember 2015, I was in Davos and I had this discussion with another community in the World Economic Forum where I'm part of. It's called Transformation Leaders Network. We had this question of how much a person really needs to live until 85 years old. And if you can identify that number or figure that you can live up to 85 years old, that you're not struggling to survive, but you're really becoming good and helping more people. I think that's the end of money that we need to we need to sustain ourselves. We don't need to hoard, or we don't need to actually sit on gold to survive in this world, right? So that we can end greediness. So it's more of a discussion in this World Economic Forum thing of how much really is the end, how much is enough. So I think it's something that we can learn from. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Somebody else want to chime in about the model and going from charity maybe to business or the opposite? What is more scalable for your activity?
I'll give it to Marie. Mary.
Okay. Thank you.
Um,
Mary.
sorry, may I have a question again?
Sure, sure, sure. So, are you a charity or are you a business? And if so, like, or are you both, or what is the best way to scale your impact in your mind?
So if I say business, it's not fully business because it's both the social enterprise and at the same time it can earn a living, earn a money that can sustain itself.
Yeah.
Right now we are still very small, and but I still see that there's a potential to grow in the future if we have the right program um, in the early state right now. And in Laos we have so much young population, and yeah, with the what we are doing, we hope that will change the perception, and in the future more youth will be able or will want to participate in the kickboxing, either for the coach or either as the fighter, or either just like for the fitness purpose. Yes, and with the fourth industrialized revolution, um, if you ask if there any threat to that, I would not say yes, because like in this industry, like personal connection is very important. Sometimes you go to the gym, you feel very bored, but when you box with the boxer, you feel very motivated, and you know that
Mhm.
there's someone to push you. And then the student, they realize that they learn new technique, and then they better themselves every day. Yes.
Mhm. I think this. I mean, I would love if you have questions for each other. Maybe I would love to let you interact in a very free way as well. But for me, I think these are my question. Yeah. Thank you so much for the time that you have spent with us, and thanks so much for the very precious work that you're doing in ASEAN. I'm really excited to see your work scale in many different ways. That's why I was asking about the model, because I imagine that like having gyms like the one that you have would be so valuable in so many other places. But like you said, it's hard enough to have one place that makes it in Laos, and
Mm.
like you said, many of your boxers have got to go in another country. So I imagine like scaling this in other cities or other villages in the country would be very difficult.
Yeah.
But I can see really the value of what you're doing. So that's why my mind is going around like how could we make that sort of impact there, and
Yeah.
enable people
So in
in other
fact,
places to do
in
that.
2021 we plan, but
Hmm.
this is quite a big change for us. We plan to organize the event in Laos so that the boxer doesn't have to travel and rely on neighboring country a lot. So
I see.
we right now only the villager, or like I would say a low income family that attend the boxing fight match.
Hmm.
Next year, if I can raise money enough, I want to organize it in the hotel, and people can wear
Nice.
suit and wear like a dress to attend and see that there is some like entertainment or sport that we can celebrate and is a part of our culture, and that like we should celebrate that and preserve that, something like that. It's quite a big plan for me, but hopefully we can get there. When we get there, I'm sure that there will be more young people who would like to start this type of business or want to participate as the fighter. Yes, and one of our goal is to send
Mhm.
at least one athlete to one championship. I don't know how to get there yet, but hopefully we'll be able to send at least one in the next 3 years. Yes.
I think for the three of your enterprise and initiative, I think one of the key is to have visibility. And I know, for example, that martial arts actually have improved a lot since we have YouTube. Since people can watch, fights on YouTube, they can prepare the fights better. Then they can prepare better, and they can just improve the quality of fights overall. And I think it's the same in agriculture, and I know for sure it's robotics, which is more my field as well, that we learn a lot from watching each other. So I'm really looking forward to have more visibility on the work that all of you are doing. I really hope to see you become more and more visible. I know you're already quite visible, but I think it's really important that that we see more of your work. Okay, I think this is it for our session. Thank you so much again for sharing your work. I really invite all the people who have attended and the people who will watch the recording to go and check your works out. We'll make sure that we have the link to your work in the description of the video. And yeah, thanks a lot again.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you
Thank
so
Bye.
much,
you. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much, everyone.
Thank you.
Richard. Bye.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Bye bye.